Greetings, Earthlings. My name is Maria, and I will be reading chapter 11, 12, and 13 from the book Oahspe in the section of the book of Fragapatti, son of Jehovah. Enjoy. Book of Fragapatti, son of Jehovah, chapter 11. The Avalanza was so constructed that the words spoken by Fragapatti and Oahspe could be heard by all who chose, of whom there were 2,000 million on board. And when Oahspe expressed conviction, the same sentiment seized upon the whole assembly, whereupon Fragapatti raised his hand, saying, "By virtue of thy power, O Jehovah, will I illume this hell." 2. And by Fragapatti's will there was created a sudden light so brilliant none present, save the Aetherians, could look upon him. Oahspe bowed down and hid his face, and Oahspe's hosts were overcome with fear, prostrating themselves on the floors of the Avalanza. 3. Fragapatti said to the swift messengers, "Go at once to Mauru, greeting, and say that Fragapatti demandeth at once 1,000,000 Aetherian volunteers, for signal centers in Oahsu's lowest hells, bringing rods of fire and water." 4. The swift messengers departed hastily. Fragapatti then commanded that the Avalanza be anchored for a day, and he and many of his hosts went out into hell, where the spirits were weeping and wailing, and cursing or lying in drunkenness and lethargy. Many of them were naked and foul-smelling, and hundreds of thousands of them, having had diseased corporeal bodies while on earth, had now carried with them into hell the substance of their corruptions, even the rottenness of plagues and consumptions, and of other diseases it is not even lawful to mention. 5. Fragapatti said, "By thy power, O Jehovah, shall a wall of fire encompass these people about. They shall not escape. For were they to return to mortals, they will inoculate them unto death. Fire, O Jehovah, fire, thou all purifier." 6. And he cast his hands outward and upward into majesty, and there rose up walls of fire on the face of the mountains, and the light thereof fell into the valleys of Oahspe, the pit of hell. To the east and west and north and south Fragapatti turned, saying, "A wall of fire, a wall of fire," and he himself shone as a sun, united with the eternal all-creator, whose voice was power to wield the elements to his will. 7. Presently there were hemmed into one field more than 500 million Drujas, who, by the sudden transformation, were roused up to desperate wildness, with bated breath, running hither and thither, first one way and then another. 8. And yet there were other millions of them, so low and stupid and crazed that the others ran over them as if they were but a head of rubbish, death. 9. Then Fragapatti went to Oahspe, saying, "For pity's sake, come thou and help me, and persuade thy hosts also." 10. Oahspe said, "O friend and brother, do not mock me. Thou hast undone me entirely. I am nothing. My hosts are nothing. For pity's sake, temper thou thine own light. It pierceth me through." 11. Fragapatti said, "Shall I not send thee back quickly to Seredho with thy host?" Oahspe said, "My wish is nothing. My will is nothing. Thine and the great all-powers will be done." Fragapatti said, "If ever thou hast faith in thy life, I charge thee now quickly to summon it to thy soul, for great Jehovah is with me now. And but ask and speak in faith by the Creator, and it shall be granted upon thee. Speak quickly, whilst yet the power holdeth upon me. Shall I put on 1,000-fold more light? Say thou, in faith I will endure all, for the glory of Jehovah. Give me or fire or torments or whatsoever thou wilt, O Jehovah. 12. Oahspe trembled and then strained in every part, and at last suddenly sprang up facing the light, melting in the flame of fire, and he said, "I will endure all, in faith of thee, O Jehovah. Give me or fire or torments or whatsoever thou wilt. Henceforth I will do for thee forever." 13. Presently his spirit took the crystal form, and the victory dawned upon his soul. A smile denoting knowledge of all holiness and majesty gleamed in his countenance. The light began to retract and to reflect from his face, brilliant and sunlike. He had conquered and won. He said, "Thanks, O Jehovah." 14. Fragapatti said, "Quick now, seize the goal. Go forth practicing thy light for others, and it will grow giant-like." And Hoa was strong in faith, almost mad with the delight of such wondrous change, and he rushed forth, commanding in the name of Jehovah, raising up hundreds and thousands, even as he had been raised, crystallizing. 15. All one day and one night they labored, and all the Etherians with them, and they rescued and divided and subdivided the spirits of darkness into grades and sections. And many of the spirits belonging to the host of Hoab were thus raised to the second resurrection, with light and power. 16. But of the hundreds of millions of spirits in the torments of hell, none were as yet raised even to the first resurrection. But they were stirred up and routed out of lethargy, and the supplies for their drunkenness were cut off by walls of fire, created by Fragapatti, which went up day and night without ceasing. 17. And Fragapatti stationed sentinels with power near the walls of fire, commanding them to cast in the elements of oogs and brimstone, so that the suffocating smell would prevent the Drujas from escaping. 18. On the second day, 1,000,000 Etherians with rods of water and rods of fire came from Mauru and answered to Fragapatti's commandment. And when they had arrived before him and had saluted in the sign of Jehovah's name, he said unto them, "Behold, I have established one signal center in hell. It will require 1,000 more centers before we have broken them up and delivered them. From the rank of Das, the marshal shall select from amongst you 10,000 to remain in the center and complete the work I have laid out." 19. So the marshals selected from the Etherians of the rank of Das 10,000. Now the Das are such as have attained to power with the rod with water and the rod with fire, but not with the hand, like the ranks above them. They go amongst the denizens of a signal center with the 2 rods, casting water with one and fire with the other, and the hosts of spirits in darkness run for them, like cattle for salt. And the Das thus discovered and assort them. For the lowest spirits go for the rods with water, and the highest for the rods of fire, because the lowest spirits dread the light, and because the highest desire to be rescued from the lowest. 20. On the second day, therefore, the Das began work, and there were baptized with water many millions, but with fire only 1,000,000. The latter were then taken without and beyond the walls of fire, and colonized and clothed and fed, and guardians placed over them, preparatory to the nurseries, hospitals, schools, factories, and such other educationals as belong in the lowest heaven. 21. On the third day, the Das went through the same labor again, and again many millions were baptized with water, and but 2,000,000 with fire. The latter were also taken without and beyond the walls of fire, and colonized in the same manner as those of the previous day. 22. Such then is the labor of the Das in hell, baptizing and selecting, and it continueth until all the people are taken without and beyond the walls. The last taken are, therefore, the lowest grade, and the first taken are the highest grade. But the last are usually so low in knowledge and ambition that they move not of themselves, but are bestowed in nurseries and hospitals to be cleansed from their foulness and to be healed of their infirmities. Chapter 12. Fragapatti calls the ship, the Avalanza, to be moved to other black mountains, deep buried in revolting crimes and misery, wherein no one with godlike power had ventured in for hundreds of years. Again he called down Jehovah's fire, and raised walls, impenetrable, high on every side, affrightening and stirring up the self-condemned with frenzied fear. And they ran, all polluted with foul thoughts, which had clothed them about with foulness terrible, and oaths and curses and imprecations against all righteousness. 2. And Hoab, too, now a very son, desperate to do overwhelming good things, even more 1,000 times than in his self-ease of other days he refrained from dark company, lest he be polluted, now rushing in headlong to the very worst and foulest, proclaiming Jehovah an active work to stir them up, and by his quick and unmistakable zeal, proving his soul's connection with the Almighty's power. 3. After Fragapatti and Hoab rushed in, hundreds of thousands of Aetherians did so also, laboring for the Father's kingdom, with flames of fire cutting loose the demon's grip of torture on the helpless and hurling them separate. None could escape because of the walls around, now seething with the choking smell of brimstone, and must needs fall prostrate before the crystallizing lights thrust at them, weeping and wailing. 4. All day long and all night, Fragapatti and Hoab, now a powerful worker, the which Fragapatti had previously seen would be the case, and the Aetherian host rested not, but waded into the hell of death, turning them to the right or to the left, the miserable, devouring wretches, brothers and sisters of mortals and spirits, now engulfed in their own depravity, and by their desperate desire to sin, holding millions of the moderately good as officers of torture, in order to gratify their horrid love of witnessing horrors. Into groups and series, they roughly selected them as a starting point for the das that were to come after, and more carefully divide them. 5. Then Fragapatti called the das and put them to work with their rods of water and rods of fire, making stations beyond the walls of fire, where the naked, trembling, rescued sufferers and drudras were housed and fed, restrained by guardians of ample strength and foresight. For of such nature is the low man and low woman, that love of evil in time delighteth to feed itself in evil more than in good, and will even turn against benefactors and spurn good offerings. 6. Of whom Jehovah saith, As by fire the dross of metal is burned and cast out, leaving that which is pure, so created I the righteousness with light from my countenance, to burn out the dross which the wicked nestle into their bosoms, wherein man shall perceive that it is the dross that healeth my chosen. Go then, deliver the wicked in hell, and make them clean with water and with fire, and ye shall find a star in every soul. And as many of these as ye deliver, so is your glory in my Aetherian kingdoms. 7. For each deliverer is as a sun, around which these stars congregate, and they magnify one another forever. And when the stars have grown, they also go and do in like manner. For it is of such that my exalted ones are in the highest heavens, whom ye call gods and lords, and justly so, because of their supremacy. 8. Thus went Fragapatti through the lowest regions of Oahspe. For 40 days and nights labored he and his host, and he broke up the regions of hell, and cast out the souls of the tortured, thousands of millions of them. Neither was there left any place standing in all the lower heavens where evil held dominion. 9. And there were established in those regions around about 200,000 colonies, comprising the evil ones who had been rescued. But the very lowest, who knew not anything, who were some infants who died at the time of birth, some infants of drunkards who came to the lower heavens with the intoxicating liquors and smoke of their mothers' debauchery, some very young abortions, slain by their mothers and fathers, some chaotic, killed in wars, who were mad and crazed, howling and screaming and fighting, and whom there were 900 million. These Fragapatti had brought away from all others, putting guardians over them for the present. 10. And then he called together the crew of the Avalanza and all the host of Hoab, and Hoab himself. And when they were duly in order, Fragapatti extemporized a throne and sat on it, and thus spake, saying, 11. Without thee, O Jehovah, man is nothing, nor can he stand upright, nor hold up his head, nor his soul after he is up, save but by thee. When he cutteth himself off from thee, he falleth like a limb of a tree that is severed. 12. He goeth about boasting, there is no all person, but his words are as a severing knife, and he knoweth it not. He setteth up his judgment, saying, Thou wert good for fools, O Jehovah, but as for me, thou art a foolish encumbrance. 13. Yea, he saith, Who hath seen Jehovah? And he laugheth because of his cleverness. He saith, What stood Jehovah upon when he created the worlds? How long slept he before he created? He saith, What a foolish creator! He created sin and death. He saith, Who knoweth the size of his head, the length of his arm, the place he liveth, or who hath heard his voice? 14. He saith, Verily, there is no all person, no all highest, no light. This is the second downward stage, and in the third he saith, A curse upon faith, a curse upon all things, a curse upon myself, and then cometh hell and her horrors to swallow him up. 15. But thou art near, O Jehovah, thy host traverse in the universe. In thy name they come, and thy power and glory are with them. In their majesty they encounter all evil. They cast out hell and its prisoners. 16. Then Fragapatti turneth to Oahspe, saying, Speak, O Oahspe, 900 million dead that are still sleeping in death lie at our feet. These regions are unsuited for their treatment. Whither shall we take them? Or shall we, because they are so dead, leave them to shift for themselves? 17. Then Oahspe rose, saluting, and tears were in his eyes. He said, Mighty art thou, O Jehovah. Lo, I was on the verge of an everlasting fall. I was on a steep precipice, but saw not. With blinded eyes I walked about. I lost thy countenance. My family became strangers to thee, and we were following close after, to become strangers to one another. 18. Yeah, I was ungrateful before thee. I forgot thou had createdst me. I forgot that all the joys I had ever had were bestowed by thee, and that by thee I had been made capable to appreciate mine own enjoyment. And then I raised up my voice against thee and turned thee out of the world. 19. Yeah, I chose a corner and appropriated it for my own ease and glory. I said, To keep other gods and angels away from my lands, this is all I desire. But thou wert mindful of me, O Jehovah. Thy voice sounded in the heavens above, and thy Son came down in thy glory. He beheld my vanity and my weakness, but he rebuked me not. Yeah, I told him I loved not to go to those beneath me and raise them up. I said, Let them shift for themselves. 20. Now am I rebuked in mine own words. Now have I cast myself out of hell. Behold, I said, Zeredho shall be a place for me and my people forever. None shall come hither to make us afraid or to annoy us. And thy Son said to me, I can teach thee and thy people that ye shall never more fear to be annoyed by the low or by evil-minded, nor shall ye fear for gods or angels to come and inhabit Zeredho. 21. Thus spake thy Son, O Jehovah, and he hath given us the secret. We no longer fear that others will encroach upon Zeredho. Behold, Zeredho is thy place, O Jehovah. These unfortunates, these Drujas, are thy children. They shall go to Zeredho. I fear not pollution now, nor do my host. We will wade into this filth like scavengers into a filthy street, and we will make these children like shining stars in thy firmament. 22. Yeah, O Jehovah, nothing more can make us afraid. We have nothing to lose. We are thy servants now and forever. 23. Then spake Fragapatti, saying, Behold the size of my avalanche, O Oahspe. If thou wilt but take the measure, thou shalt find it is just the size, and built to take thee and thy host and these Drujas. Think not that this matter so happened, for I sent beforehand, and had all these unfortunates enumerated, and thy people enumerated also. 24. When Oahspe perceived this great wisdom in Fragapatti, and comprehended the care that had been used to accomplish so much, he made no reply at first, but, looking at him, burst into tears. Presently he said, By thy power and wisdom, O Jehovah, will I also lift my fellows up out of darkness and misery. Chapter 13. Then Fragapatti sent swift messengers to Mauru, relating all that had been accomplished, giving also the names of the generals and captains over the newly established colonies redeemed from Utsa in the Oahspe mountains, so they might be registered in the libraries of Haraiti. And Fragapatti established a line of messengers betwixt the colonies, and also from the colonies to Mauru, and selected and appointed the messengers to hold offices during dawn. 2. And when the affairs of this region of the lower heavens were completed and in working order, Fragapatti was ready to ascend with the mad and dumb Drujas rescued from hell. Accordingly, the proper persons failed to work and carried them into the Avalansa, being obliged to blindfold them because of the light, nor did the Drujas cease wailing and crying with fear and pain and craziness. But because of the multitude of infants, Fragapatti had previously provided 500,000 women of fetal, that the infants might be redeemed to everlasting life. 3. 60,000 physicians had Fragapatti aboard, and they fell to work right and left, resuscitating and restoring to consciousness the unfortunates. And of the host of Oahspe, not one was there but went to work, willingly as nurse and helper. 4. Now struck up the Esnars with music, 30,000 of them, but soft and gentle as a breath of wind, carrying the tones around about the ship, even as an endless echo, calling and answering from all possible directions, a continuous and enrapturing change, as if near and as if far off, so that the uninformed knew not whence the music came, nor how it was produced. 5. All these things were set to work during order, just as the great Avalansa was ready to start. Then Fragapatti went into the ship. Being almost the last one to enter, already was the light gathering bright and dense about him. His head almost hid in the brilliancy of the halo, and then he called out. 6. Arise! Arise! In Jehovah's name upward rise! And as he spake, behold, the Avalansa moved with his will, for all the host joined in the same expression, and presently started upward the great fire ship, leaving the burning walls and signal centers flickering below, so that even hell overthrown shone with great grandeur. 7. Fragapatti spake to Oahspe, saying, When I took thee and thy host from Zeredho, I promised to take thee to Maudu, the capital city of Haraiti, my kingdom. Now thou desirest me to go with these Drujas to Zeredho. I will ask thee now, thinkest thou that thou couldst plan their salvation and restore them to light? 8. To which Oahspe replied, saying, I perceive that of myself I could do nothing but go downhill, or, at best, keep on a level road. As I now comprehend all light, there is no one thing in all the universe that can rise of itself, but by the external pressure of other things, all tend downward, even man. To attain to be one with Jehovah is the beginning of the resurrection of the individual. But he who hath attained power to resurrect others is strong indeed. There are many who spasmodically resurrect others, but alas, how few can keep them resurrected. Not only must he have the light of Jehovah within himself, but power to make others obtain the light for themselves. Alas, I am weak. 9. Fragapatti said, Understand thyself, O Oahspe, be not deceived, nor short in faith to accomplish. For herein lieth the key to all wisdom and power. Suffer not thyself to go to the other extreme, saying, Man of himself can accomplish nothing. To teach a child this is to hew off its legs and arms. To teach it that it can accomplish is to make it giant-like and effective. 10. Oahspe said, I perceive thy wisdom, O chief. How then shall we find a line by which we can train this economy? If we inspire them not with faith to accomplish, they will accomplish nothing. If we teach them they are dependent on Jehovah for all things, and that Jehovah doeth all things, and that no man can change his own destiny, then he is moved as a machine. Then we will make non-entities of our people. On the other hand, if we inspire them that they can accomplish, it will grow upon them. And, finally, they will believe that they do all, and Jehovah nothing. This was the mire my other kingdom ran into. 11. Then spake Fragapatti, saying, Thou perceivest that reason cannot solve the matter. Let us, then, suspend the subject, and I will take thee to Maudu and her kingdoms, and we may obtain facts more pertinent than opinion or reason.